This is the Ted Wallachin Podcast. Brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And now, here's Ted.
My special guest last stopped by this podcast in October of 2021, at which point he had just released his very funny collection of memories titled Ron James All Over the Map, and was about to launch his cross-country tour, Back Where I Belong, which continues to date. 2 milestones have occurred in the past 10 months. First, his book will be released in paperback in October and has been nominated for a Leacock Medal for Humor, in addition to which Mr. James will be performing in Stratford at the iconic Avon Theatre July 16th. Ron, it's good to speak to you. Where exactly are you as we speak?
I am in Grasslands National Park in southern Saskatchewan. 70 square kilometers of rolling prairie, coulees, and buttes of just mythic country where the wind rules the big wide open, brother. It's just good for the soul to be here. I'm driving back from a dozen dates in BC. I transferred my vehicle out from Toronto. So I loaded up the car with camping gear, and I'm on my way back and over the lip of Lake Superior and down into the Big Smoke.
So where is Canada's favorite comedian going to be on Canada Day?
Where will I be on Canada Day? I'll be smack dab in the heart of the Canadian Shield, camping in Quetico Provincial Park.
Very nice. Which
ironically is right on the Voyager Highway, which is where I was when I got the news years ago that my first series, Black Fly, was picked up. And there's one section, that was in February, there's one section of the Trans-Canada I haven't driven, which is from Winnipeg to Dryden. So I figured at 64 I had to scratch that bucket list number. And I guess people have their bucket list, see Rome, jump out of an airplane. Mine was making the final drive from Winnipeg to Dryden.
How could you just haven't lived until you said you've driven through Dryden. Listen, congratulations, as I mentioned at the outset here, 2 milestone events this year for you. First of all, your book has been nominated for a Leacock Award, which is for a medal for humor, which is outstanding. Congratulations to you on that. You must be thrilled.
Oh, thank you, thank you very much, Ted. I know you have some kind words to say about the book, and it was a challenge to write, but once I got into the rhythm during the dark days of COVID, it was a little beacon of light at the end of that long tunnel when I found myself writing about the country that I'd been able to perform in prior to the pandemic coming down. So that's a nice little bonus on what had been a real nice journey. And I'm in some great company with Mercer and Pritch and writers, and it's a nice honor to make the final 10 when 70 were submitted.
That is terrific. And my understanding is it's coming out in paperback in October, right?
Yeah, October the 23rd. And I just heard from my editor they're going to put instant bestseller on the cover, which is nice. And because you don't get rich writing in Canada, brother. I'll tell you that. But it sure is nice when people reach out on Facebook or they come to my shows and they wanted autographs and things. It was really a love letter to the country and to the region I was raised and to the people I'm from.
For the people who didn't hear our initial interview back in, believe it or not, it was in October of last year. It's been that long. I had mentioned that this should be prerequisite reading for students to get a better understanding of this country. Because if you haven't had a chance to travel across this country, boy, you fill people's minds with some fabulous pictures and stories. and give us a greater understanding of what this great nation is all about. And I truly believe that. And I'm really happy to see that things have gone really well.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's so, I mean, it's become so polarized. You know, you've got that liver-lipped little craven prick, Polyev, capitalizing on current liberal ineptitude and failed optics that's driven by that increasingly metastasizing cancer of Trumpism. You know, I see a lot of trucks in the West, you know, with the Canadian flag flying and, you know, the fuck Trudeau things, stickers. And, you know, I would hate to think that this polarization that's occurring politically will scuttle a civility that we've been known for and that I really discovered exists, you know, this generosity of spirit that prevails for the most part from coast to coast. And whether, you know, I was playing St. John's or Thunder Bay or Saskatoon or Courtney Comox, there was a generosity of spirit, which in the book rises from the sound of your wheels strumming the asphalt right to the stage door, to the stage itself. It's been this continuity of experience with people in place. And that's not to say, Ted, that I don't tip the apple cart and speak truth to power, because that's the comedian's job. I have to honor the dictates of my craft. And yet, you have to strike a balance between artistic needs and audience expectation. So it's going to be interesting to see, and the challenge is going to be, you know, it could get contentious in the West. But I've always tried to find a balance and be an equal opportunity offender. With only 37 million people in Canada, the traveling comedian doesn't have the luxury of numbers that they do south of the border. I mean, 375 million people. Bill Maher can have half that country hating his guts and still have 6 times the population of Canada buying a ticket to his live show.
Right.
He's just one example I'm using to say that what the numbers are. And with such a rich urban club scene in America, even north of the Mason-Dixon line, a comedian can still make a living there, and I suppose temper his act accordingly when he plays other jurisdictions or communities. But I've got a buddy down there who's doing stand-up, and every comedian seems to have a story of being threatened, Ted.
Yeah.
By espousing a point of view that's moving the world to the right side of history, not defiantly marching backwards.
Would it be fair to, my guest is Ron James, who's currently on tour and is the author of the best-selling nominated for a Leacock Medal of Humor book about his travels across this country called All Over the Map. Would it be fair to say that since the last time you hit the road 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, and now the audiences are easier because they're itching for live performance and yet more difficult because of this polarization that you talk about?
Well, what I've noticed is that the people who are buying tickets to my show know what they're coming for.
Okay.
And, you know, we had a sold-out show with almost 700 in Cranbrook. And that's a pretty right-wing town. And they stayed, even though I teed off on the convoy and teed off on right-wing Fox News-driven hysteria. Yeah. And but I have had occasional boos when I've spoken against what I consider as our Canada's Convoy, a cheap January 6th cover band. Right? I mean, they were influenced by the same rancid effluvia that burst from the bowels of a morally bankrupt Republican Party, that was influenced by post-truth madness and Alex Jones fiction and Fox News-driven hysteria, looking at metastasized into a, you know, Trump-addled zealots, a flesh and blood mob ready to put the coup in cuckoo. I think the only difference between our convoy and the one in the States is most of those guys wanted Don Cherry back on TV.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to keep an eye on. We have to be diligent because you don't want to be, we don't want to find ourselves in a position where there are, a gang of sons of Odin or our version of Proud Boys marching with tiki torches somewhere, and we say, well, we didn't see this coming. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It's here. And so that's one of the things that you have to address. I mean, and people will say the same thing. It's hashtag freedom. It's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Not if you're nuts, you're not. If you're nuts, you're not entitled to your opinion. If you, like millions of people do, believe the world is flat, no such thing as gravity, flat Earth society, Ted, millions around the world, then feel free to take a running leap off the CN Tower, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of opportunity to see the glaring holes in your argument before you hit the pavement with a splat.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a line in the sand between sanity and insanity. And, Pat King's manifesto that he wanted to present to the government, whatever shortcomings the government has, you can't endorse anarchy. It was sedition, plain and simple, that held a city hostage for 3 weeks to diesel fumes, shitty sing-alongs, and bouncy castles. And they're going back for Canada Day. There's some veteran who's walked across the country. And so I speak my truth to what I figure is very detrimental to our progress as a society. And if I lose some fans as a result of that, well, I guess that's the price you pay. Because, I had a post 2 summers ago at the height of America's madness when they were suggesting that chloroquine-fused fish tank water followed by a cow piss chaser with a shot of horse tranquilizer would cure COVID. Mm-hmm. And it went viral, and Occupy Democrats picked it up. And I had an awful lot of Canadians say they weren't going to buy a ticket to the show anymore. More than I thought I would, Yeah. And I said, well, that's okay. Well, every now and then you need to have a culling, I guess. But for the most part, my experience on the road has been people sitting shoulder to shoulder in social solidarity, double vaxxed and masked for the longest time, just eager to be together and process the 2 years of COVID-induced trauma we've experienced in the language of laughs. We missed each other. That's what I say to them, Everything's got polarized now. We started out that we're all in this together, having block parties and banging pots and pans for frontline workers. And over the last 6 months, we seem to have transmogrified into a rabid mob of white walkers looking to turn on everyone from their grandmother to the house cat. And I said, let's not forget what we missed in the beginning, which was each other. Everything else is a spoiler on a Dodge Neon. It doesn't matter.
More of the Ted Wallisham podcast after this.
Well, it's time to slowly make our way down to Tom's Place because it's too hot to run. 190 Baldwin, that's where you'll find them in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom Mahalik has joined me. Well, summertime is with us. We're getting some heat. It's going to be up and down because it always is. But you must have some fabulous styles. Breathable, lightweight, and very fashionable styles for the summertime.
Teddy, just like what you said, piano, lentamente. The Italians know how to use this. Nice and easy does it all the time. Nice and slow. When you get into your summer clothing, you have to be in a special mood. Nice and easy does it all the time. The clothing has to be lighter, and we've been having some very, very warm weather lately, so you need light. Light shirts, short-sleeve shirts, magnificent casual trousers that can be worn for dressier occasion or for casual. Depends on what you're going to put with it. We have many, many different online sport jackets that are made in Canada and that are also made in Italy. So please come in, take a look at our trousers, our shorts, our short-sleeve shirts, and be ready to be nice and easy. Lentamente, piano, piano. I don't know, my pronunciation is probably off, but nice and easy.
It doesn't matter about your pronunciation. Your clothes are great, and the prices can't be beat. Tom's Place is located at 190 Baldwin. That, sir, is in the heart of Kensington Market. Hey, let me take a moment to tell you about my friends at Helenda's. They are the meat people. You know, I've been a fan of their products for years now, and without a doubt, they make some of the best sausage in Ontario. They are multiple award winners, having captured the Ontario's Finest Meat Competition's coveted Award of Excellence on 3 occasions, in addition to dozens of individual product awards. Helenda's has also received the Grand Champion ribbon at the past 2 Royal Winter Fairs ready-to-eat meat snack competitions. So whether you're preparing a charcuterie board or a full-blown sit-down dinner for your friends or family, you'll find Helenda's award-winning products at fine meat shops throughout the province, now including selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland stores, along with their 7 Helenda's locations. Their barbecued kielbasa is my favorite. On a fresh bun with horseradish, it is out of this world. But don't just take my word for it. Judge for yourself. On your barbecue, in your kitchen, or straight from the refrigerator. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste.
Now back to Ted Wallachin.
Comedian Ron James is my guest. You talk about how people shouldn't be surprised at seeing what's going on right now, and it makes me think of what I see going on right now in Russia, in Ukraine. When Russia attacked Ukraine, people say, oh, my God, I can't believe that they did that. And I look at them and say, you can't believe that they did that? They did it 8 years ago in 2014. What makes you think suddenly they were going to become a peaceful people?
Exactly. It gets back to the Anschluss with Hitler, the Sudetenland. I'm only taking this one. Well, yeah. NATO's finally woken up today, and there's 300,000 troops on Russia's eastern flank. I mean, you know, this hairless psychotic, he's capable of anything. And Russia is the fox in the hen. China's the fox in the hen house. You know, why the fuck aren't they saying anything? You know, I mean, you know, we're held hostage to everything that's made in China, from flat screen TVs to dildos and pantanglers and teapots. And they've got us by the cojones as much as Russia's threat of nuclear annihilation has it. But there comes a point, I think, when the sane world has to just stand up and say, enough is enough. It's like I was reading today in the Guardian how the Democrats in America have to take the gloves off and start bare knuckle fighting these wingnuts who have taken it upon themselves to alter the course of American history with his Roe versus Wade decision. And you know, it was H.L. Mencken in 1921, that great American satirist, who said, when fascism comes to America, it will be a Christian cross wrapped in the flag. And lo and behold, and Russia, look, when you've got a country that was built, I mean, Stalin had killed 30 million of his own people before the 30 million that were lost in the Second World War, which they don't call the Second World War, but the Great Patriotic War. And autocrats are notorious for weaponizing select moments in history in order to further their agenda. And why the West sat back and let him do what he did in 2014 is the epitome either of naivety or benign neglect. What do you think?
I agree with you. And unfortunately, as much as I have a lot of respect for President Obama, I think that he was at fault there. I think he sat back and he could have done a lot more, but declined not to, because I think he wanted to go out.
You're goddamn right.
He wanted to go out as the Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Bro.
He does. He does get a free pass on that, and that's BS.
Nobody went to jail for the financial fiasco in 2008. And if you think that wasn't the spark that lit the fire of disillusionment in America, you're missing the point. You know, they used to say this thing about Premier Doer in Manitoba. He gives a great speech as long as you don't listen to the words. And Obama's books, I listened to one on the road, and I remember calling my dad up at the time and saying, boy, you got to listen to this book on hope. It was just so, and, you know, he was charismatic, the best orator the country had ever had next to Teddy Roosevelt's abilities for a stump speech. And, but why it took so long to solve that 2008 financial crisis, and when they did, nobody went to jail. Let's draw an analogy to Canada in that respect, Ted.
Yep.
81% of our deaths in the first year of COVID were in elder care facilities. They should have been called I don't care facilities. They hired devalued workers to care for devalued lives whose diaper hadn't been changed in a week. They lined their pockets with life savings of the greatest generation. Mike Harris and his ilk, the board of Chartwell, all these gold-plated, greedy corporate pricks never paid for those numbers. Who's gone to jail in Quebec for what the armed forces discovered when they had to go into that charnel house of horrors where people died of dehydration because all they were hoping for, grandmothers and grandfathers, was a glass of water? The same thing happened in Niagara. The same thing happened elsewhere in Ontario. Why has no one suffered any legal repercussions for that? They never do. I just hope that there's a payback coming. You know, it won't be too long before one of these greedy corporate weasels from the board of Chartwell is sitting in the home himself, chewing on a piece of jigsaw puzzle, playing with a ball of string, when the nurse comes up to him and says, hey, if I look familiar, it's because my grandmother died in here while you lined your pockets with her life savings. My name's Nurse Karma, and Karma's a bitch.
Yeah. Ron James is my guest.
Did I lose you?
No, you didn't. Not at all. Not at all. Not for a second. But let's talk about something positive here, because I had mentioned at the outset that there were two milestone events that occurred in your life. Number one was your book was nominated for a Leacock Medal for Humor. Number two, you've been asked to perform at Stratford at the iconic Avon Theatre come July the 16th. That I read that and I went, wow. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. And I didn't laugh at you. I was laughing at you. You know what I'm saying? I thought somewhere there are some people, some stiff-collared sons of bitches are going, what? How could we be allowing some cheap comedian onto these boards? That this is just not possible. This is just not right. Damn right it's right.
That's
you know
funny.
what I mean?
It's because, you know, oh, well, no, Ted, come on. It's not lost. The irony's not lost on me, bro. I mean, you know, our calling, I mean, you started out in stand-up. I mean, stand-up is paid gratuitous lip service in Canada, and you're only given any kind of recognition if you get rich and famous elsewhere. Yep. So I tip of the hat to Stratford for inviting me. But I figure after 2 years of losing money during COVID, I'm a hell of a lot cheaper to mount with 2 Red Bulls backstage and a glass of water on stage than the Pirates of Penzance. So, you know, there's not exactly a cost of fucking $25 you're going to pay. But the truth is, I'm telling you, man, these people I'm working with, Stratford, the publicity people, the organizers, it's the best crowd I've worked with ever. They're enthusiastic, they're proactive, they're driving sales. I'm able to sell my book and sign it after the show. And I played the Avon Theatre as a benefit January 4th, 2020, just before COVID hit. And several of them happened to be in the audience, and they saw me, and they got the idea, and they called me up. And I said, yeah, man, I'm there. And then, lo and behold, the 2 years in a row, we couldn't do it. So now we're coming back, and it holds 1,100 one night. And we just, I think we've got 750 tickets sold already. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed we have a sellout. But,
oh, you will.
You know, finally, Ted, I think this is the beginning of our calling being seen as the art form it is. And
I hope you're right.
It's, but well, they've been trying to get that recognition, for years. I remember, 20 years ago, 25 years ago now, was it? Jesus, time goes. I remember trying to book myself into theater so I could make a few extra bucks to pay the mortgage and give the kids some shoes and give them something in their stocking other than an orange, right?
Yeah.
And their Christmas stocking. And none of the theaters wanted to book us. I would call them. I put my one-man show up, Shaky Town, at Factory Theater, and I had 3 good reviews. And so I'd stuff my envelopes with the 3 good reviews I had from that and the cassette tape that I made of Shaky Town at CBC when I did it for the radio. I got 500 cassettes done, and I tried to sell them at different independent bookstores around Toronto. And anyway, 10 years later, when I cleaned out my shed, I found the box that once had 500 cassettes in it, and there were 472 left, and 10 of them I'd given away.
Yeah. Okay.
So but theaters didn't want to touch us. They, no, we've seen comedians. We don't like comedy. I said, look, if you see, and they were too blue. And I said, look, if you see a band you don't like, you stop listening to music. They were always ready to tar everybody with the same brush.
I know.
And I just knew it would take time. The Comedy Network, Coming, Say Things, Sandra Fair's show, Comics, was a huge boon for comedians because it allowed us to perform for half an hour, and with cutaways to the audience, it was great for club owners to see because it legitimized the act. It just wasn't something that you shot at the club, and said, here's my 10 minutes that I shot at the Laugh Resort or Yucks on a Saturday. This was a professionally produced and directed show. And it was instrumental in me getting Blackfly, too, because I did a historic minute parody on it and used that as a pitch. And everything's connected. Nothing happens overnight. Life is all about the long haul. But it's nice that here we, at 64, sneaking up on 65, I'm at Stratford. But let me tell you, bro, I've got no illusions that I'm going to be putting a hump on my back and playing Richard III next year. Don't kid yourself.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, listen, this is all great news. The book and Stratford is all great stuff. And safe travels back to Ontario. Have a great time at a packed Avon Theatre, because I'm sure it will be, Ron, and it's always a pleasure chatting with you. We'll do it again soon, man.
Ted, just a joy, man. And look, happy Canada Day to everybody that's coming up. And if any of your listeners get a chance to point the nose of their vehicle beyond the myopic perimeter, the big smoke, and see this nation in all its glory, please do it. It's a charge for the soul's battery, man.
Yep. Good stuff. All the best, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
The Ted Wallacham Podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Helenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste. The Ted Wallacham Podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.